God has been teaching us how to bear children within the body and to get our houses in order. So for a while now, we've been working together, doing personal work and understanding how we are to heal. And it's through understanding that personal work, taking the plank out of our own eye and repenting and engaging in a process of growth and healing, that we then learn how to bear children in our own house. And then when our house is in order, when we're managing our house well, then we can manage his house. There is one in my house who's in my house by marriage, and God is contending with me today on the sin that has kept me from holding this person accountable. And to be honest, that sin, that fear that I didn't bring to God to try to understand better, and really this has been a blind sight, but it doesn't matter because God says that he contends with us, that we're going to receive a lashing, whether we sinned knowingly or not. So over time, God is going to start demonstrating, showing us, and putting us in a position to address those sins that we're participating in that we don't even know about. And that's what he's doing with me right now. And so he's showing me this dynamic of me always trying to please this person, but this person is not concerned about pleasing me. It doesn't really go both ways. I show love and investment in this person, and the rest of the time I'm out of sight, out of mind. Why am I doing that? I wouldn't do it with anybody else in the body. I would not go chase a single one of you to keep pleasing you when you show no interest in having a relationship with me. I would not delude myself into thinking that you are bearing fruit that you're not bearing. So why have I done it with this person? Well, I have my own baggage, and that baggage doesn't matter to the purpose of this video, so I'm not going to share it. But I have some things to work on. So as I'm taking up this topic of my house being in order, I'm realizing something very important. What I'm realizing is that when my individual house is in order, God is going to put my house over which he has placed me in order. And although this is a person who entered my family by marriage, I still consider them to be part of my house. And at the same time, I have not had any responsibility in building this person apart from the time that we've been in a relationship. So yes, God is going to use me, but I don't believe that he holds me accountable for everything that has led up to this person becoming who they are. With my child, it's different. But I'll tell you what's the same. No matter what, I am responsible if there is some sort of a rift, if there is some issue between the two of us, me with my child, me with this other person, me with anybody, I need to go deal with my part of that, with the plank in my own eye. Why have I taught this person that they are entitled to me pleasing them, but they don't feel that responsibility with me, or they throw me a bone here and there? Why would I keep doing that and causing myself pain? Now, it's not as though I haven't been doing my work on this. I have been bringing it to God, but he's showing me he's had to bring me into a position in a very painful way to really understand the dynamic of what I have in large part created. You know, when you guys show up to, Sabbath fellowship, or you show up to workshop, I don't go chasing after you and ask you, hey, do you have any questions? I ask in a general way. There's no favoritism, right? But I've done that with this person. And there's no favoritism in God's house. Why would I be doing that? God is going to put my house in order when my individual house is in order. And I understand why he has presented this, and that he's presented it in a timely way for the body to learn. There are things that I haven't understood. And one of those things is that I've thought that I needed to make certain things happen in my family. And when we're thinking that way, then we start to think that we need to start controlling things. And I want to make sure that this is clear for others in the body. The bottom line is that God is going to teach you who you must be if you first take the plank out of your own eye. I've not held this person accountable, not because of who they are. I've not held them accountable because of what I've been doing, because of my own issues. I've not held them accountable in relationship with me, but have let them choose what they're going to do and how they're going to behave with me. And then I'm upset when I see that they respect other people more than they respect me, that I'm relegated to an afterthought, that I'm out of sight, out of mind, that they behave in a self-centered way. And even though I'm going through one of the greatest challenges of my life, they don't ever ask me how I'm doing. Not ever. Like ever. It's always about their crisis what's going on with them. And I feel angry about this, but I did this. I have been treating this person like some king. And I'll tell you one thing, it hasn't led to me respecting them. I don't feel respect for this person. They have not worked for my respect. So something has really shifted inside of me with regard to my role as a mother and a mother-in-law. Whatever position I'm in and the way I position myself within that role has to be 100% dependent on my acknowledgement of God, not my ideas of what it means to be a mother. And I've had a lot of ideas about what it means to be a mother, and some of them are not so good, as he's showing me today. As an individual, I have a lot to clean up in my family line. I have a lot to clean up that's happened before me, a lot of burden that's been placed on me because of the baggage in my family line, and I have a lot to clean up from my family line after me, because I carried on a lot of those behaviors. And this idolatry is one. I watched my mother do it. I watched my grandmother do it. Rolling out the carpet for men who hadn't even earned basic respect, who felt no need to care for these women who were fatherless and husbandless. No, they would fall prostrate before them. I need to correct what's been done in my own heart. And in the process, I can't regard anyone as more important than the other. That includes my children. That's a different way of looking at things, isn't it? While I have authority over them, while I love my children, I cannot treat them as more important than anybody else in the body. Because at the end of the day, there's no favoritism. I can't even treat myself as more important than anyone in the body. In fact, the word tells me to treat others more important than myself, so that I am laying down my life for others. And you know what this has resulted in? Treating my children as more important than other people. It hasn't resulted in a more godly life, I'll tell you that. I mean, I've invested a lot of time with my daughter, but I've also cleaned up my sin with my daughter, and I hold her accountable, and so God has raised her. But it hasn't resulted that way with this other person because I haven't held them accountable. And so the way that I need to behave from here on out is that everyone gets the same treatment. I tell them what I see, and that's it. It's not complicated. Here's the fruit. Here's what needs to change. That's the bottom line. I don't associate with unbelievers. You know, here's the thing. When you're sorting through whether or not you believe in God or you believe in the Bible, if God's moving in your life and you're pursuing him and he's proving himself to you, you are not moved to be so reckless to let the words come out of your mouth, the words come out of your heart, that you're just not sure if God's real or if the Bible is real. That's the definition of an unbeliever. When you're doing that work and God is proving himself to you, you keep that between you and God because you don't want to disrespect God. That is an outright disrespect of God. And I don't associate with people who do that. I wouldn't associate with them if they were outside of my family. I have to create boundaries around that if they're inside of my family. So my energy will go to God alone and wherever he tells me to distribute it. If people really want to do this work and they really want to know something about your faith walk or about how you're supposed to do something, they're going to ask. They're going to pursue. But I'll tell you one thing, no one's allowed in my home unless they acknowledge God. No one is allowed in workshop unless they've returned to God. No one will go to Sabbath assembly until they return to God. And no one is going to be pursued when they don't have it in them to pursue truth. I have to step back. I have to be the same with them as everyone else, because the minute I start putting my own spin on what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a wife, I start coddling. I start taking matters into my own hands. That is the main point that I'm trying to get across, that it does not help anyone to do that. If you would treat others in this way, then it should be the same with your children, and it should be the same with your husband. You need to bear children, but you need to go and deal with your own sin that led to that dynamic in the first place, and then pray and fast for them. And then trust that God will move things according to his will, because he's the one who's going to put those pieces in place. When we have dealt with our sin, God is the one who's going to move our family into position. When we have dealt with cleaning up our own house, he is going to clean up the house that he's set us over. So it's not a matter of me posing limitations on other people, except for rightful limitations, such as I don't associate with unbelievers. If you want God, you need to go pursue God. If you don't, we don't have anything in common. And I'm not going to pretend that we do. You confront, then you let God deal with them, and you step back and deal with your own feelings and your own sin. Then you discern the fruit and confront the fruit. Confront based on the fruit. Discern the fruit and praise the fruit that God is bearing. But you don't allow for any acceptance of fruit that is unacceptable. Do you know what starts happening when you put bad fruit in a basket of good fruit? It starts to make the other fruit go bad. It starts to impact your family. That person needs to be isolated. They need to feel their shame. They need to be motivated, not coddled, or they're never going to get it. And I understand that some people think, oh, I'm doing everything I can to pursue God. But you know what happens when the farmer says, well, I don't want to hurt the fruit's feelings, so let me put it in the basket with the good fruit. Everybody else is affected. That moldy, soggy fruit starts defiling one by one. I realize that this may sound harsh, but listen to the message that I'm speaking to you. I'm not putting this all on the other person. I'm putting this also on myself. I need to go deal with the sin that I created in our relationship. Then I need to share with that person what I've done. After having shared with God and examined myself and made a commitment to God that this is no longer what I'm going to be doing. Receiving His ministry and understanding how I need to be from here on out. I want to make sure that no one misunderstands me, that no one thinks that when I say you need to bear children and you need to get your house cleaned up, that I'm saying now go out there and start putting all of these limitations on your family members and telling them who they need to be. Guess what? We established this. The limitations start with us. The examination starts with us. Only then is the dynamic going to be shifted, and only then is God going to testify. He's not going to go with you and point His finger right alongside you, acting like there's nothing you have to deal with first. I can't possibly know how I need to be working with this person or relating with this person until I've been dealt with by God. The scripture reads, take the plank out of your eye first, then you will be able to help your brother take the speck out of his. So, I realize all of us have really been raised to think that we as parents, we just go around telling our children who they need to be and what they need to do. But that isn't what the Word says. The Word tells us to lead by example. The Word tells us we need to clean ourselves up and then we can help them. So there's the thing. I created a dynamic that was idolatrous. I created a dynamic that has been hurting this other person and myself. And then I've been wondering, why is there no relationship? Why don't I feel comfortable here? I hope this helps. Thank you for listening. Please discern this with God.